Good morning students. Welcome to PC YouTube channel. I am Chaitra here. Today I will be explaining the science topic for 6th standard students. In the previous session we have completed as first chapter is food. Where does it come from? And the second is components of food. And the third chapter is fiber to fabric. Today, let's start with the fourth chapter is sorting materials into groups. As objects around us, let's start with the 4.1. We have seen that our food and our clothes have so many varieties in them. Now, let's food and our clothes will divide it as there is such vast varieties of objects wherever you can see. Okay, we see around us like a chair, bullock carts, as a chair, bullock carts, a cycle, and a cooking materials as a vessel, spoons, pans, and all in a kitchen, and books, clothes, toys, water, stones, and many other objects. All these objects have a different shapes and colors and uses. As you can see here in the 4.1, as a figure 4.1 shows is the objects around us. Like you have seen a toy and a key and a glass and books, papers, compass box, mobile and CDs and other varieties of objects you have seen in your home. Like look around and identify the objects that are around in a shape. Means you have to observe some of the objects which are in a round shape. Okay, then make a list of that shapes things. Our list may include a rubber ball, a football, and a glass marble. If we include the objects that are nearly round, our list could also include the objects like apple, orange, grapes, papaya, and etc. Suppose we were looking for objects that are edible. We might include all these items that we have listed in a table 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3 in a chapter 1. If you are not unable to answer these questions, you can go through with the previous videos. As a chapter 1 we have discussed about these tables. So let's continue with the fourth chapter. We might also find that some of those round shaped objects were just listed out are also in these groups. Let us say we wish to make a groups of objects that are made of a plastic. We'll make a group of objects that are only made up of plastic. Okay, and the buckets, you can list it down. First one will be a buckets, lunch boxes, toys, water containers, and pipes, and many such objects may find a place in this group. There are so many ways to group objects. In the above examples, we have grouped the objects on the basis of their shape or the materials they are made from. All objects around us are made of one or more materials. These materials may be a glass, metal, and a plastic, wood, and a cotton, paper, mud, or a soil. Can you think of some examples of a materials? You can make a different table, like 4 columns you can make it. Like first you write it glass and the materials of metal and a plastic. You can group it. The first one will be a glass and second will be a metals and the third will be the plastic materials. You can make a table like this and the least sum of the things which are to be continued. In activity 1, let us collect as many objects as possible from around us. Each of us could get some everyday objects from home, and we could also collect some objects from the classroom or from outside the school. What will we have in our collection? Like we can collect from the school also. Like what we see in the school is means chalk, pencil, notebook, rubber and duster, a hammer nail, soap, spoke of wheels, and a bat. Okay, and the matchbox, salt, potato. We can also list the objects that we can think of but cannot bring to the classrooms. We can think it, but we can't bring some of the objects to the classroom. So, for example, wall, trees, doors, tractors, road. These are some of the examples which we cannot bring for the classrooms. But walls are built like schools, and the trees it will be in the surrounding, and the doors which you can see in schools, and a tractor we use in a fields. Separate all objects from this collection that are made from papers or wood. Just you collect some of the objects which are made from the paper, or you can collect from the wood also, which materials are made up of paper as well as wood also. Okay, this way we have divided all the objects into two groups, and the group one group has the objects that are made from a paper or a wood, while the other group has two objects that are not made of these materials. Similarly, we could separate the things that are used for preparing a food. We can also use some what a preparation of a foods. We can separate some of the things we use in our daily lives. Okay, let us be little more systematic as the list all the objects collected in a table 4.1. You can note it down like table 4.1. You can write it as table 4.1. It is the fourth chapter, and this is the first table we are using here. So this here you can write, make a column, two columns, and how many objects you are collecting, you can make it as a rows also. Okay, write it down below, and objects and the materials they are made of, which materials you are collecting, and the material which are you have collected, and it is made up of which material also. Okay, and make it first column should be the object which you are collected, and the second column should be the materials they are made of. Okay, first we'll take a plate. We call it as thali. Okay, plate is made up of many other materials like steel, glass, plastic, any other fiber, whatever it may be. Okay, next the second example is pen. Pen is made up of a plastic, metals, and nowadays we can see it is in wood also. The nib will be a plastic, but the wood pen also available in the market. Okay, make it two columns, and make a table of 4.1. Next, we'll move for activity 2. Table 4.2 list some common materials. You can also add more materials in a column 1 that are known to you. Now, try and think of everyday objects you know that are made of many of these materials, and list them in a column 2. Make 4.2 table. This is the fourth chapter, and this was the first table, and this will be the second table. So we write it as table 4.2. You have to write as different types of objects that are made from the same materials. Here we have taken in a table 4.1, we have taken the materials of different materials, but in a 4.2 we are observing that and noting that we are taking the same material objects. Like, make a two columns as one materials, and the second will be the objects made of these materials. Okay, first we'll take off wood. From wood we can make a chair, table, blocks, bullock carts, and its wheels. And next, second will be the example is paper. From papers many things are made. Nowadays art and crafts are made up of by waste papers, and other any varieties of rockets you have played in a schools, right? Making a rockets by the papers and all. Like, useful things are books, notebooks, newspaper, toys, and calendars. Okay, next you can list this from this. I have showing this table. You can list the leather, plastics, and cotton. This will be your homework. You can try it, and you can post me in a comment box. What do we find from these tables? We'll see What do we can find from this table means you can see the different types of and different types of materials and the which types of materials can make a different varieties of objects. Okay, first we grouped objects in many different ways. We then found the objects around us are made of a different materials at the time. An object is made from a single materials. Okay, and objects could also be made of many materials, and then again one material could be used for making many different objects. This was the important thing, is one material like wood, plastic, leather, cotton, paper, whatever it may be, from one material could be used for a many different objects. What discussed which material should be used? Okay, we'll discuss it. I will show you still more examples like leather and all. From this, what can we make from the leather? As the we have discussed what from wood we are making some objects like this, and from paper books and notebooks and newspapers are made, and from the leather we can make jackets, trousers, footwears, hats, handbags, furnitures, sports equipments. Okay, from the leather we can make these different types of objects also. Next, from making any given object, it seems that we need to know more about different materials. From making a different objects, we have to know which from which material we can make a which object. Okay, that's the important. We can't make everything from every material from every objects. So we'll go for a 4.2 properties of materials. We have to know the properties of every materials. Okay, from the wood and the plastic we can make a doors, but not from the leathers. Okay, nowadays they are making a doors from the glasses also. That's the only for a fashionable things. So there should be a knowledge about how the materials are used and what are the properties of the materials. Okay, let's move on the properties of materials. Have you ever wondered why a tumbler is not made with the pieces of cloths? Recall our experiments with the pieces of a cloth in a chapter 3, and also keep in mind that we generally use a tumblers to keep a liquid. We use tumbler for the use of keeping the or storing the water. Okay, tumbler to keep a liquid. Therefore, would it not be silly if we wrote were to make a tumbler out of a cloth, as shown in a figure 4.2? Here, a girl is pouring a water in a cloth. It splits out. Like using a cloth as a tumbler is very a funny thing. So because it cannot protect or store the water, so we are using here what material we are using? We are using the plastic. So it is holding the water. What we need for a tumbler is glasses, plastic, metal or other such materials that will hold the water. Similarly, it would not be wise to use papers like materials for a cooking vessels. Okay, we see then that we choose a materials to make an object depending on its properties. Here we choose some objects depending on their properties, because every material has different properties. So, and the purpose for which the object is used to be. So, where are all the what are all the properties of a materials that would be important for the usage? Some properties are discussed here. Let's see some properties we'll discuss and their uses also. Appearance, we'll see first appearance. Materials usually look different from each other. wood looks very different from iron. Iron appears different from a copper or aluminium. At the same point, there may be some simultaneously between this or a similarities between the iron, copper, aluminium that are not there in wood. We can see the some similarities which are in iron, copper and aluminium, but there that are not in a wood. Can some other similarities we can see. Let's move to the activity 3. Okay, sir. You can do it in your own also. First, collect small pieces of a different materials, like you can collect the paper, cardboards, wood, copper wire, aluminium sheet, chalk. Do any of these appear shiny? Separate them shiny materials into a group. You take paper, cardboard, wood, copper wire, aluminium sheets and a chalk. You can see whether in these materials which you have collected they are shiny, then you collect it in a different groups. Now observe as the teacher cuts each material into two pieces and look at the freshly cut surface. You can say this one, this picture, figure 4.3. This is a example, it is a paper roller. You have rolled the paper, then you are holding in a hand. Then take a cutter, then or a scissor, then cut into a two pieces like this. Okay, cutting the pieces of a materials to see if they have a lecture and separate the shining one. Now observe, you can observe here that the freshly, what do you notice? Does the freshly cut surface of some of these materials appear shiny? Included in these objects also in the group of a shiny materials. Do you notice such a shine in the other materials? Cut them away as you can. Separate this is in the class with as many materials as possible and make a list of those with an and without lecture. Instead of cutting, you can rub the surface of the material with sandpaper to see it has the lecture. First, you will take a paper, then you will cut, or by cutting, you can see the fine surface, like it's a shining surface. Otherwise, you can take the sandpaper, which sandpaper you will get in the market. Just rubbing these ends, it will give you a shine. You can try this in your home also. Next, materials that have such luster are usually metals, which are lusters, or a soft one will be, or a shining materials will usually call it as metals. Iron, copper, aluminium and gold are some of the metals, examples of the metals. Some metals often lose their shine and appear dull. There are some of the materials also, metals also, which after using they looks like dull colored. So because of action of a hair moisture on them, we therefore notice the find only on their freshly cut surface. When you visit an ironsmith or a workshop, look out for a freshly cut surface of the metals rounds to see if they have a luster. Next, hardness. We'll go through the hardness. First we see the how they are cutted and whether they are shining or not. Let's move towards the properties now. It's a hardness. This is one type of a property of the materials. Okay, we'll go through the hardness. When you press different materials with your hand, some of them may be hard to compress while others can be easily compressed. Take a metal key and try to scratch with it. Sorry. The surface of a piece of aluminium, a piece of a stone, a nail, candle, chalk and other materials or objects, you can easily scratch some of the materials while some cannot be scratched so easily. So materials which can be compressed or scratched easily. Here you have to notice this. Materials which can be compressed or scratched easily are called soft, while softness, they will be compressed and scratched easily means they are called as soft materials, while some other materials which are different to compress, difficult to compress, which are easy to compress and scratch are soft, but which are difficult to compress and scratch are hard. For example, cloth and sponge is a soft, while iron and is hard. Here we have seen in the fibers to fabric. So in that, cloths are a sponge we use in our daily lives, like sponge. Cotton and sponge are soft natured, are soft materials. We can compress it or scratch it, but we can go with the iron. No, iron is not a soft material, it is a hard material. Okay. In appearance, materials can have a different properties like luster, hardness, be rough or smooth. Can you think of other properties that describes the appearance of a materials? Till here we have seen some of the properties. Let's see any other properties including in this chapter were given in this chapter in the next session. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the next video.